In this video, let's cover some handy vocabulary and related talking points. First, let's literally talk about the parts of your hand. We have your thumb, your pointer or index, the middle finger, ring finger, and pinky. Altogether, your thumb, pointer, middle, ring, pinky. Now, other parts, you have your palm, your wrist, your fingertips, your fingerprints, your nails, and your knuckles. Some of the gestures you might do with your hands are a thumbs up, flipping someone off with your middle finger, giving the peace sign, and saying okay. Now these are things that you might do, and these are the words that you use to describe those gestures. But how often are you actually going to be saying these terms? Probably not very often. Next, let's cover some phrases that I'm going to group in with Hollywood English. Now, the thing to note about these vocabulary phrases and words are that, yes, they are English. Yes, if you learn them, you can use them. But more often than not, you're going to see and hear them in TV shows and movies instead of actually saying them on a day-to-day basis. There are going to be exceptions, but just for your average person, you're probably not going to be saying these. Knowing about them, I won't say it's important, but to just round out your vocabulary, it could be a good thing to know. So first we have Knuckle Sandwich. This is talking about a fist. So if some tough guy in a TV show says, I'm going to give him a knuckle sandwich, that means he's going to punch him in the face. If someone's going to knuckle up, that means they're balling their hands into a fist. That means they're getting ready to fight. Hands up. If you can think back to being in a classroom, yes, you have your hands up if you're going to ask a question, but in the real world, it's usually going to be a cop telling someone to stick their hands up. Hopefully this doesn't happen to you. In a sentimental moment or scene, you might see two people making a promise, and then they stick out their pinky. And when you wrap another pinky with another pinky, a pinky promise, they pinky swear. I think it's really rare for adults to be doing this. So with Hollywood English out of the way, let's try to move on to some more useful phrases. So if you have something at your fingertips, this is implying that you have something at the ready. It might not be in your hands right at the moment, but it means it's quickly accessible. A thumbnail. If we think back to our nails, and then you think back to the finger that's the thumb, unless you have some sort of injury going on with your thumbnail, a thumbnail is going to be an image preview on your computer. And while we're on the topic of technology, we have something called a thumb drive, but I feel like more often than not these days, people say a USB drive, a USB stick. Now, two of the quote-unquote most useful vocabulary related to hands, let's talk about handy. So handy means useful. Smartphones are really handy. You can make phone calls, you can go on the internet, you have apps, you have games, you have your GPS. I do want to point out that it's better to say handy for things. If you use handy as an adjective for a person, it kind of sounds like you're treating them like an object. Now we get some weird exceptions because we have the title of a handyman. A handyman can be like a all-in-one electrician, plumber, Mr. Fix-It, that type of thing. In a Hollywood English sense, you might hear someone say, oh, Mr. So-and-so is really handy to have around. But again, for your average person, if you want to say something is handy, that's okay. A person is handy, not so much. And most importantly, to have something handy is really, really good. The last vocab I'll give you is to say hands down. So this is when you're really confident and you're trying to emphasize something. This is hands down the best ice cream I've ever had. This is hands down the most fun game I've ever played. This is hands down the worst rap song I've ever heard in my life. Hands down. All right? I think that's good enough for now. As often is the case when making these videos, sometimes more ideas come up after I hit publish. But if you have any questions, comments, maybe you have your own hand-related vocab that you'd like to share, please leave them down below. Thanks for watching. The end.